In this movie, I'll show you how to create this pattern of wavy yellow engraving lines at the back of the certificate. And as it just so happens, it's a single horizontal line with just 2 strokes assigned to it, and that's it. So let's see how it works. I'll go ahead and switch over to my document in progress, and I'm going to select this top horizontal line using the black arrow tool. And then I'll go ahead and drag it upward like so to about this location, kind of splitting the difference between its previous location and the top of the yellow rectangle. And then in mid-drag, I'll press and hold the Shift and Alt key. That would be the Shift and Option keys on the Mac. Keep those keys down and then release the line in order to create a copy of it. Then I decided I needed to scale the line so it's at least as wide as the certificate. So I'll double-click on the Scale tool icon here in the toolbox. And I went with some non-uniform values here. I changed horizontal to 130% and left vertical set to 100%. Then click the OK button in order to scale that line. All right, now I'll press the V key to switch back to the black arrow tool. And notice that I've got my appearance panel up on screen. I'll click on my black stroke in order to select it. We're ultimately going to be changing that stroke to a very thin yellow line. But if we do that right now, we'll barely be able to see the effect. So let's leave it fairly thick and black for the moment. Click on it to make it active. Then go up to the Effect menu, choose Distort and Transform, and choose the final command, Zigzag. And this is actually a pretty interesting filter. If you turn on the Preview checkbox, you'll see that it turns the line into a kind of predictable jagged line. In other words, there's no random quality associated with zigzag. However, I don't want these sort of mountains and valleys. I want a continuous curve, so I'll change the point setting to smooth. And we end up with this smoothly flowing line. Then I'll increase the ridges per segment value. And I'm going to start by taking it up to 20, and I'll press the Tab key just so I can see what's going on. Now, what I want you to notice here is when we've got an even value like 40, the line begins as a valley at the beginning of the yellow box, and we're going to be putting this engraving pattern inside the box. So it begins as a valley there, and then it ends over here on the right edge of the box as a mountain. I want them to both be the same. Whether they're mountains or valleys, I don't care. So I press the up arrow key in order to increase that value to 41. And anytime you have an odd value, at least where this artwork is concerned, then the valleys end up aligning on both sides. All right, now let's take the size value down. I'll click it and then press the down arrow key until I reduce that value to 6 points as you see here. Next, click OK. All right, now at this point, I told you that we only needed 2 strokes to pull off this effect, but it dawns on me, we only need 1. So I'll make sure that the stroke remains active, and I'm going to duplicate it and flip it by going up to the Effect menu, choosing Distort and Transform, and then choosing the Transform command. And now you want to turn on the Reflect Y checkbox right there, and that will reflect the line vertically. Then turn on the Preview checkbox, and that goes ahead and flips it. We need to regain the original, and you do that by changing the copies value to 1, and you end up with this effect here. All right, now click the OK button in order to accept that effect. And now what we want to do is go ahead and zoom in a little bit so that we can see what we're doing once we change this line to yellow. And I am going to change the stroke from black to yellow, and then I'm going to change the line weight to about as thin as I dare go, which is 0.3 points. And we end up with this effect here. By the way, 0.3 points is 1/240th of an inch, so it's very thin indeed. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and nudge that line from the keyboard until it cuts through the top of the coupon border. And that's just for alignment purposes. All right, now we need to make a bunch of duplicates of this line. And we're going to do that by clicking on Path this time around. Then go up to the Effect menu, choose Distort and Transform, and choose the Transform command once again. And I came up with a vertical value of 3.33 points. That just happened to look good. And I'll turn on a Preview checkbox, and that just goes ahead and nudges that guy down. We create copies, of course, by increasing the copies value, and I'm just pressing and holding the up arrow key in order to fill the screen with copies. And then you got to click OK in order to accept the effect, and then zoom out, because you can't zoom out when you're inside that dialog box. And now I'll click on the word Transform, not the one that's assigned to the stroke, because that's the one that's flipping the stroke, but rather the one that's assigned to the entire path outline that's listed down at the bottom here. Click on the word Transform, turn on the Preview checkbox, and continue to increase that copies value. And at a point, I pressed Shift up arrow a bunch of times until I arrived at a copies value of 140. And that ended up filling in the entire coupon. And then click OK in order to apply that effect. All right, now I'll go ahead and zoom in so we can see just how darn good looking this effect is. Of course, there's a couple of big problems here. The first problem is that the yellow wavy engraving lines are covering up everything behind them. So press Control-Shift left bracket or Command-Shift left bracket on the Mac to send them to the bottom of the layer. Then switch over to the Layers panel, expand the layer, and go ahead and scroll all the way down to the bottom. The selected path is called Highline, and that's because it's based on this high line right there. This is the high line, this is the low line, above and below the headline. I want to change the name of this guy, though, to Engraving. All right, so now we've got the lines situated where they need to be, but they need to appear inside of the rectangle as well. And that means we need to mask these engraving lines inside the yellow rectangle, and I'll show you exactly how that works in the very next movie.